Are Arsenal about to catch fire now? Are Arsenal about to... They've started well in terms of points, but are we going to now see, Brandon, Arsenal come alive and the football go up a level after that really important win against Manchester United? Are you confident that the team's going to start to really cook now as well as getting the results?
I'm hopeful, hopeful. I can't say for definite, though, because as I've already, stated on numerous of occasions, I still don't think we've done enough in the transfer window. Thomas Partey's out injured. Saka's apparently been playing with an injury as well. So how fit is he? We got one or two, I would say, very small issues to iron out. But the biggest one for me is the Kai Havertz one. I think he has to be taken out the firing line. I think Mikel Arteta has to start Fabio Vieira now that he's showing a bit of form. And yeah, I am expecting a lot better performances because we see a lot better performances, last season. And now we're reaching that point where we're going to start having some really tough fixtures coming up now. We've got Everton this weekend. I know people will say, that should be, an easy 3-pointer for Arsenal. But if you remember rightly, we went to Goodison last year and we lost 1-0 in Sean Dyche's first game of the for Everton.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be an easy game by any means. It's going to be a very physical game. And that's why I feel like Arteta won't drop Havertz because of the physicality side of things. I do think he needs to. Now that Gabriel Jesus is back, you see when he came on against Man United, it just... We attack a lot better. We're a lot more fluid with him in the side. So, yeah, I am expecting to see a lot better performances and the points to come along with it as well, especially if we want to, compete again this season.
I think when it comes down to Arsenal, you have to look at their performances this season. And I'll be honest, it's not on the same levels as last season. I think Arsenal fans can admit as well. You can say it's Havertz. You could put other factors into it. I mean, Timber being out injured, even though he wasn't there last season. But look, I agree with Arsenal needing more players. They did make one or two very good signings. I know Timber's out injured, but I thought that was a very underrated move in terms of versatility. I think Declan Rice, he's going to... We haven't seen the levels that we're going to see of him in the future. He's going to probably play more as a number 8 once he's confident there. So, look, Arsenal need to make a statement now. International break is over. We talk about Havertz. We talk about the performances. We talk about individuals, Arteta, tactics, and all of the other things. But it's time for Arsenal to make a statement. In a way, against United, you could say that was a very nice win, but I don't think the performance was on Arsenal levels that I've seen in the past, especially last season. I think Arsenal will win this game against Everton. I think they will beat them. But most importantly, how will they beat Everton? It can't be a last minute, 2 goals in the 88th and the 89th minute. It needs to be comfortable. Everton are struggling side. Yes, they have made a few good signings. I think Beto is a very underrated striker, and I think he's going to be massive for them in the Premier League for Everton. I think that's going to offer Arsenal some question marks, but it's time to move on from the transfer window. I think every fan can talk about the transfer window, but Arsenal still do have the quality. It's time for that quality to show on the pitch. I know Arteta has to make a big decision because Fabio Vieira is coming off the bench and is giving very good performances, and Havertz is doing the opposite whilst being on the pitch. Arteta, he needs to stop. Well, I can't say he needs to stop it because there's only been 4 games. But if he continues to pursue with Havertz starting, and I get with Everton's physicality and Havertz could play a big role there, but Havertz really hasn't deserved to play. He hasn't. So, and one player who has is Fabio Vieira, but 2 opposite type of players in terms of physicality. I think he'll make a massive call if he was to drop Havertz in this game. But most importantly, rather than Havertz and Saka and Nketiah and Jesus, rather than talks, it's time for Arsenal to be Arsenal that we've seen under Arteta and put in a solid performance to show the rest of us that they're serious this season. Because so far, yes, they are picking up points. I just haven't seen that Arsenal, that aura of Arsenal that I've seen in previous season.
Yeah, again, with the Havertz thing, right, he's creating a bit of a problem for himself here, Arteta, because every time there is a bad performance, Havertz's name is mentioned in it. And rightly so, because his performances haven't been great. But every time we have a bad performance and Havertz starts the game, he's going to be mentioned from now on. It's just how it is, because you spend £65 million on him, you expect a lot better. And we haven't seen that. So I think he needs to take him out of the firing line, not just for Havertz's sake, but for Arteta's sake as well, because unless it starts clicking real soon, and like you said, we've got a player there who's hit form at the moment. It's all everybody talking about. Oh yeah, but if we drop Havertz, what's that going to do to his confidence? What does it do to Fabio Vieira's confidence when he's coming on week in, week out, putting in performances and still not able to start games? You got to, give him confidence as well and say, yeah, there's a starting place here for you, providing you continue to perform. And we had the similar sort of situation in pre-season with Trossard, because Trossard was our best player in pre-season, no doubt, and should have started the season for Arsenal, but he didn't. And then when, you saw it when he came on against Fulham, he didn't have a great performance at all. So I think for me, the manager has to play players based off of merit now. And Fabio Vieira, like you said, is performing. Havertz isn't.
You know what? Besides Havertz and Fabio Vieira, in terms of Arsenal as a whole, I actually don't think you guys need to cook right now. As long as you keep it ticking, as long as you keep it going, get those wins under your belt. Maybe if you have a bad performance, you get a draw out of it or something. Just keep the fire burning, because I feel like last season the issue was you, man, house on fire, started, all guns blazing, out the doors fast. And then over the season, you guys got tired. You guys, the Europa League caught up with you, the cup competitions caught up with you. And even when you were out of all of those things, you, man, was still, the fire dwindled, and then boom, you guys lost the league. Man City have mastered this. I think this is why they're also one of the best teams in the league. They know how to start the season slow while picking up, almost maximum points you can get. It's mad. But they know how to start the season slowly, not in full gear, not in full pace. They sometimes look a bit shaky, but when it comes to January, February, March, they switch it on. They switch it on, and then boom. Next thing you know, 10, 15 wins in a row, they win the league. I think Arteta's learned from that. And actually, he's like, well, guys, I know we want to look the best all the time, but being pretty from the get-go don't win you a league. So I know the Havertz experiment is annoying, and we're baffled about why it's continuing. But if it just gets Arsenal over the line for the first 18, 19 games, I think that will put Arsenal in a better position to win the league.
Do you know what? Do you know where I agree with you on that? Is I've heard a few gooners say things like the way we've started the season isn't sustainable. Like how the Farmers League meaning weirdly changed last season to saying, well, if City keep winning the league, we're a Farmers League. When for the last 5-6 years, Farmers League meant outside the top 2 or 3 teams, all the other teams are crap and they're playing against rubbish. It was so weird how last year people tried to change the meaning. Unsustainable football's meaning has suddenly changed because of Arsenal. You could argue the Man United game, but the other matches, they just weren't killing the games off, but they were in control for large parts of it. And they conceded a really sloppy opening goal to Fulham as an example. They then even though they got 2-1 up, they should have killed the game off and they made a mistake. That isn't unsustainable. Unsustainable, it would be performances like Man United versus Wolves, where you're being peppered and you smash and grab the result. If you keep winning like that, that won't last forever. But if you're dominating the ball, having most of the chances, that is literally the definition of sustainable football. I don't understand why football fans like to change the definition of words, change the meaning of what phrases mean to kind of fit a narrative. And I agree with you, KJ. I just don't see why Arsenal fans are panicking in any way, shape. I think you're better off starting in terms of form slowly. One thing that I think City got right last year, and I said this in around April, I think they're planned all year. It was a very weird season last year because of the World Cup break. And clubs did it all different in terms of, when the World Cup was on, some carried on training for 2 weeks, some went on holiday straight away, some did warm weather training, some stayed in England. I think the way City handled their season was almost, I want you guys playing at 90, 95%. I want you to win, but I don't want you breaking your backs early in the season. And you saw in the last 2 months of the season when lots of other teams had kind of fallen off or looked lethargic, they came into their own. And I think they reserved a certain amount of energy over in the early stages of the season, so they still had like energy left in their legs. I think some teams, and Arsenal might have done this. If you ever watched like sort of middle distance running at the Olympics or at the Athletics World Championship, some people go out too quick in the beginning, and then when they get to that last 200 meters and their legs burn out, I think Arsenal might have done a little bit of that last year. So I get why there's worry because you started better in terms of form last year. But I just, again, as an outsider looking in, I don't get the panic from Arsenal fans at the minute. Personally, I don't have your same emotional connection. So I don't feel about your I get why some of you are doing it because none of us. I don't enjoy any Man United football matches ever. I'm always too nervous. So I don't get nervous when I watch anybody else's teams play, but I'm more objective because I don't have any emotional connection. And I just don't think Arsenal fans, the only area I agree with is Fabio Vieira has to be starting over Kai Havertz through meritocracy alone. That I agree with. However, I don't think you man should be panicking in any way, shape, or form. I think you've had a very good start to the season, got a very good squad, and the togetherness at your football club, generally speaking, that's powerful. But the fans have got to stay relaxed. Learn from City's fans. They're always relaxed. They're always cool. They're always calm and collected. Fans have got to adapt that approach. You could end up hurting your team by being too panicky and too mardy too early on in this season. Stay cool. Help your team. Support your backers.
Everything all of you have said is so spot on. Right. Firstly, if someone says to you that Pep is trying to copy Arteta, Arteta is trying to copy Pep. Sorry. What's the saying about flattery is the best form of a compliment?
Imitation is the best.
Imitation. Thank you. Imitation. Right. Yeah. Listen. Sorry. 1 second.
Change your headphones. It's half-time sub.
Perfect time. I've got my daughter's headphones on now, but it's what it is. You've got to remember this season's different to last season as well for Arsenal because as fans, straight away, there's expectations in the Champions League. Because of last season, the fact that maybe you threw some cup games, there's expectations to also perform in the cup, right? You are not going to do that with 13 best players, right? Arteta has to use the whole squad this season for you to keep the fans happy, which means a run in the Champions League, also challenge for cups and the Premier League. He has to get this whole squad ready, right? And he has to, and these are also, although they're compliments on Arteta, they're also risks, right? So I wouldn't start Vieira against Everton. I would keep it as it is. Bring in Jesus, right? Jesus came on as a sub, bring him in. Don't change it too much, right? At home, bring in Vieira, right? But he has to get this whole squad understanding the season is not the first 4, 5, 6 games. The season is 38 games plus the Champions League. There's no City player that gets upset, apart from Cancelo, and he's gone, about not playing. You go and look at City over the last 4, 5, 6 years. You could say to me a player that you think hasn't played much. If you go and look at how many games in all comps he played that season, you'll be surprised, right? Because everyone knows you could be an Arsenal player like Saka and you can play 50 games in a season, right? And end up with fuck all. Alternatively, you can be a City player, you can play 30 games a season and end up with a treble, right? Because you know you are part of a squad, not a best 13, 14, you're part of a squad. I think Arsenal have started the season how they should do. Let the ball do the work. It's going to be harder for you because you're going to have to break down low blocks that you've never seen before, right? And you get used to that, but you can't start changing the way you play. Let the ball do the work, because by letting the ball do the work, your legs are doing less work, and then all of a sudden you're I remember when we beat Man United 2-0. I think it was 2 seasons ago, and it was a season where United fans were like, that was more
embarrassing. That was a training match for you, man.
The second half, it was about October. There was a reason why City took their foot off the brake, because Pep was like, we're winning this game, we're 2-0 up. There's no need to play heavy metal football. We're 2-0 up in complete control of this game. Let the ball do the work and not your legs. Arsenal fans, Terry's spot on. You lot just need to, as long as you lot are getting points, don't worry what rivals are saying. Don't worry about any of that, right? You'll hear it. I heard it in January and February. City don't look the same team. I hear it every season. But it's just like, all right, wait till February, March. If you can stay there, you're in with a chance. But you have to remember, as a fan base, you're expecting your team to do everything. So he's got to get this whole squad ready for everything.
It's really interesting.
Do you get the same feeling, though?
Go on, Brandon.
You mentioned you had a good point.
Yeah.
You had a point about taking a foot off the gas against United, but also this season, in terms of their performances, they've had to put their foot on the gas because they was going to drop points. It's quite the opposite. It's not like they're controlling games. I mean, United, that could have easily went differently. Forest that could have, you know, I think
But
Arsenal.
they are-
I think
no,
against
they're
Palace
still
that was a very good performance
But-
because
but-
No, I
But
disagree.
you've got to look at it. They're controlling the games, but in one of them they had a player
Yeah.
sent off, right? And the minute you have a player sent off, the game is going to
that was a
change.
very good
right?
game against us.
And then the other ones for me, I mean, look, the United game, I think they allowed United to have a bit more possession or whatever.
We got
But
lucky.
I don't think you got lucky, bro. I think
We
that's
did,
a bit.
we did.
It was a pretty equal game. Like I want to shit on United all day long, but come on.
Garnacho was a Nats cock offside, right? If he was onside, that's a different result.
There was
It's a
decisions
similar-
that went both ways, bro. Come on, let's see.
Yeah,
it
I
both
know,
ways.
and I
There
get that.
were.
And it's a similar thing with Crystal Palace, right? Because the Crystal Palace game, we won for a dodgy penalty that maybe on another day wouldn't have been given because Thomas Partey was handling the defender.
Yeah.
It was given, so in that sense, we was quite lucky. Do you know what I mean?
But you also missed loads of gilt-edged chance. Like, no disrespect to Palace.
yeah.
Like,
No, I
in the first
understand.
half, you should have been 2 or 3-0 up. And
Yeah.
again,
And this is the thing.
it's
But
about missing chances.
Brandon Terry, this is where it comes back to the fans. Right. You lot, I once did a show with a gal where I think you lot had just beat, was it Bournemouth? You came from behind to beat Bournemouth, right? And he came on the stream and straight away was talking about referees. And I said, bro, you're not that Arsenal anymore, right? You won the fucking game, right? You move on. Do you hear me going, well, we were lucky that we got a handball against Everton, right? You need to get out of this worry because trust me, there's a lot of people that will not see it and won't get it. But the worry in your fan base, the more this happens, the more it goes onto the pitch, right? People don't believe this. People will be watching this saying, you're chatting absolute shite. The players do not see how fans are. Bro, they're young. They've got social media. They see meltdowns of fan bases, right? You lot have to just see it as what it is. You've got 3 points. You've got what? Is it 11 or 12 points? You've got
10.
12. Oh, lovely.
10
Oh yeah, we got 12. Sorry, you got 10 points, right, from 4 games. You haven't been looking the same as last season, but you're also trying new things. You're knowing Arteta will know this is a long season. You have to look at that and just be happy with that and think there's been things that have gone against us, things that have gone for us. We've got those points and it's not the business end yet. If you get your expectations too high, it's all going to happen the same as last season.
I hear you on that. Boys, I want to get score predictions for the Everton-Arsenal game. I'm going to go to Daps first on this. What are you saying? What's going to happen in the game, bro?